You can build your own audiobook server complete with a mobile app, progress syncing, and total ownership of your library without being locked into Audible or Spotify, and I'm going to show you how, step by step, even if you never self-hosted anything before. We'll launch a virtual private server running Ubuntu, just $6 a month, but you can actually do it for free, either on your own hardware or by using my DigitalOcean affiliate link below to get $200 in server credits, which earns me a commission and supports the channel. Then we'll install Docker, deploy the Audiobookshelf container, and use Cloudflare Tunnels so you can securely stream your books from anywhere. So let's get started. Go ahead and grab your free DigitalOcean credits and then meet me here in your dashboard, or if you are self-hosting at home, you can still follow along with just a few tweaks. So first thing I'm going to do is click on Create Droplets. And what we're going to do is set up our server in the cloud somewhere. I'm going to choose the New York data center. Go ahead and pick the region that's closest to you. And then as far as the operating system is concerned, you want to choose Ubuntu 24.04 long-term support, or whatever the latest version of Ubuntu is at the time. And again, if you are self-hosting at home, what you're going to want to do is install Ubuntu on your hardware and then go ahead and skip to the next section. Now, for the specs of the server, a basic CPU is just fine for Audiobookshelf. CPU options, we will choose regular. This $6 a month plan gives you 25 gigabytes of disk space with 1 gigabyte of RAM. Just to give you some context, audiobook files are anywhere between 25 to 50 megabytes per hour. So a 10-hour audiobook is about a half a gigabyte in size. And my 30 gigabyte audiobook library right now is about 10 gigabytes. So that should be enough for me. If you need more space, you can always upgrade in the future, or add additional storage via a volume. Coming on down here for the authentication method, do not choose password, choose an SSH key. You won't see one if this is your first time with DigitalOcean. Just have to go ahead and create a new SSH key, and they guide you through that pretty easily with these commands right here. And then once you do that, you'll see your options. Go ahead and select one of those. It's just way more strong than a password. And then we're going to open up advanced options here. We can enable IPv6 and add an initialization script, which if you go over to my blog, linked below in the description, I have this cloud init script right here, which takes care of a whole bunch of security stuff and setup stuff for us. So go ahead and copy that, paste it here. And what this does is it sets up a user. So we're going to create the Tony user. We're going to disable root from logging in, lock down SSH, close some ports down, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So I have a whole playlist on this channel that walks you through each and every one of these steps. So you could definitely check that out. But this script automates all that. The only thing you want to do is change all these references of Tony, which is the user that I'm creating, to something else that you choose. Finally, let's give our droplet a host name. I like to keep it simple, something like books. And then we'll go ahead and click on Create Droplet. All right, so after just a minute or so, you'll see your server show up here. It has this IP address, and now we can copy that and use that with a terminal on Mac or Linux, or if you're on Windows, you can use a command prompt to log in via SSH. You also have the option, if you don't have any idea what I'm talking about, to go to the web console and then click on this button, console, which will open up a window, and that will log you in via SSH directly. And actually that will fail because we created another user, so you have to come in down here to access and then log in as the user that you created. For me, it was Tony. Launch Droplet console, and then you're connected. I just prefer to use terminal on my Mac, so that's what we're going to use for this tutorial, and it's a good idea to show you what's actually working behind the scenes. So essentially you're going to do SSH Tony, or the username that you created, at that IP address, hit enter. First time you do this, you'll see this message, are you sure you want to continue connecting? Type yes, hit enter. And then we'll see a very similar screen here. Now, at the very end of that cloud init script, we had a message print to the console, which said your server is configured and ready. So go ahead and execute this command and just make sure you see that, just to make sure nothing happened, an error or anything when we were setting up our server. Now, just in case you don't have a fresh install of Ubuntu, Docker might already be installed and we want to get rid of that, so you can execute this command. Again, all commands are on my website, so you can easily copy and paste them into your terminal window. So now that we have Docker completely wiped from our system, in case it was already there, we can fetch the get docker.sh script with the curl command. So that's now on our system, and we can execute that with sudo sh get docker.sh, hit enter, and that's going to go ahead and pull down Docker, install it on our system, and it actually does install Docker and Docker Compose, so we'll have both of those after this is finished. All right, that's done. Now the next thing we want to do, this is optional but good practice, we want to add Tony to the Docker group with the user mod command, or whatever user you create it. This just allows you to not have to type sudo every time to elevate your privileges. And then to apply all those changes, we will do a sudo reboot, and that will close us out of our terminal session. And we will log in just about a minute, and everything should be good to go. All right, so let's actually get into the fun part and set up our audiobook server. And like I said in the beginning of this video, we're going to be using Audiobookshelf to do that. It's a free and open source program. And in order to do that, we need to do a couple setup steps before we go ahead and install it via Docker. So first one is to make a directory anywhere on your system. I recommend your home directory called Audiobookshelf. And then we're going to go into that directory with the cd command. And inside here, we want to make 4 directories. First one, audiobooks, that's where your audiobook files will live. Second one, podcast. And then you got config and metadata, which are going to be used by the Audiobookshelf server. All right, so we have those, and now we can create our Docker Compose file with any text editor of your choice. I'm going to use the Nano text editor. We're going to make a new file called docker compose.yml. Go ahead and paste in the config from my website, and this is super straightforward. We're defining a service called Audiobookshelf, and we're pulling down the latest image of Audiobookshelf from this server. The container name is Audiobookshelf. We're exposing port 80, but on the outside of the container, it's going to be port 13378. And then we're essentially mapping one-to-one all those directories inside the container to outside the container on our file system. And then a couple other environment variables like your time zone, which you can change that to be yours. And then finally, some ID numbers, which are essential for how the process works in the background. So go ahead and save that, do Control X, hit Y, and then enter. And now that we have all that set up, we can do a docker compose up-d, and that's going to go ahead and pull that image onto our system and start up the container. All right, that looks like it was successful, but I always do like to do a docker ps just to make sure that the container has up status and it is running. So that looks good to me. And as it says here, we can access our server at the public IP address, or if you're at home, you can use localhost or your local IP address, :13378. So let's go ahead and do that in our browser window. So we'll do the IP address :13378, hit enter. And unfortunately, we do see this dangerous site warning from our browser. I'm using Google Chrome at the time. We know we're setting this server up. It is not a dangerous site. It just hasn't been configured yet. So let's go ahead and bypass that. And that will take you to the initial server setup page. So you can create a root user. You can call it whatever you want. Root is a good option. And then pick a strong random password and confirm that password. And we will submit that. That'll go ahead and redirect us to the login page. So go ahead and log in with your root user. All right, and here we are in the Audiobookshelf dashboard, specifically the libraries tab. And that's a good place because the first thing we want to do is to add our first library. So we'll click on this. You can call your library whatever you want. I'm going to call mine audiobooks. We can do podcasts too, but this tutorial will just focus on audiobooks. There's these different metadata providers. You can pick whichever one you want. Google Books is a good one. And then as far as the physical location on your file system where the audiobooks will live, we need to choose a folder for that. And we already created that. It's just empty right now, called Audiobooks. So we'll select that and then create. Now, before I show you how to get your audiobooks into your server, we want to do one more thing while we're in here as root. Let's create a user. We don't want to necessarily listen to our audiobooks as a root user because there's a lot more permissions. And this process that we're doing here is going to be applicable for as many people as you want to invite to your service. You could do this for family and friends. So click on Add User. And then I'm going to make a user called Tony, give him a password and email. And then, like I said, you can give them different permissions, but the default ones are fine for just a normal user. And then go ahead and submit. All right, now that we have that set up out of the way, let's talk about how to get audiobooks onto your server. And there are multiple different sources where you can get audiobooks from. I'm going to talk about just a couple of them. A good one is Librivox.org, which has free public domain audiobooks. These are a bunch of classics on here, completely free to download as it says. That's a good option. Another one is Libro.fm. Now this one is kind of like an Audible equivalent, except the massive difference between Libro.fm and Audible is the fact that you actually own your audiobooks. You can download either MP3 files or more commonly M4B file format. And the reason it's very similar to Audible is the fact that you can either do the same thing that Audible does, 1 credit per month for $15, or you can buy a la carte too. I am an affiliate for Libro.fm, so if you use my affiliate link in the description, I will earn a commission, so thank you for your support. And then finally, you probably have audiobooks from a proprietary source, like Audible, for example. Now, unfortunately, these books are locked in that ecosystem, so exporting those books is something that I cannot cover in this tutorial here, but Google is your friend and we'll leave it at that. Okay, now that we talked about that, let me show you my audiobook files. I have this folder on my desktop called Audiobooks, and in here, like I said, we have different file formats. We have M4B, or a folder containing multiple MP3 files like this one right here. And what we want to do is essentially copy these up to our server. Multiple different ways we can do that. Like I said, I like to use the terminal to do a lot of this stuff. So I'm going to exit out of my SSH session here and then go onto my desktop. And in here is that audiobook folder. So we'll go into that directory too. And then we see all those audiobook files and folders. What we can do is use the scp command to recursively copy everything in this folder to our server. So it's going to be a very similar syntax. Your username at the IP address, colon, and then specifically you want to give it that path to our home directory /audiobookshelf. And then in there we had that directory called audiobooks. Hit enter, and looks like I had an extra O in here. Let's try that again. And that'll go ahead and copy all of those audiobooks up to our server. Looks like it's going to take a little bit, so I'll catch back up with you when that finishes. Okay, all of my audiobooks are on my server, as you can see here. And the next thing I'm going to do is go back onto our Audiobookshelf server and go into our libraries. And if it doesn't auto scan, you can do a manual scan here. That'll just take a few seconds. And then if you come back to your dashboard, click on library, you'll see all of your audiobooks in here. Should be 29 of them. That looks about right. You'll notice that some of them don't have covers. It didn't automatically pull those in. So we can fix that pretty easily. If you go back into settings, libraries, you can click on these 3 dots here and do match books. And that's going to do a deeper scan. Use that meta provider, the Google Books that we picked in the beginning, and try to automatically match those to an existing source. So let's let that do its thing. Okay, that's finished. So let's go back here, go to our library, and you'll see that most of them do have covers now, except for this one here, which that's okay because you could click on this pencil icon, go to the match tab here, and it looks like it can't find it because of these underscores for some reason. So get rid of that and do another search. And now we get multiple different options. So I noticed with this one doesn't have, it has a cover, title, author, good stuff, but it doesn't have an ISBN number. So I like to find one with an ISBN number. This one doesn't either. This one does. So that means it's linked to an actual physical book in the real world, most likely. So let's go ahead and change that cover, save and close, and now we have a cover for that. So you can do that if you don't like any of these album arts as well. You can do that for any of those and make it look as nice as you would like. Now, you can technically use your server under an IP address, but it's not a good idea. It's not secure, and it says it's dangerous, which it's really not. It's just not encrypted your connection from wherever you're hosting this, especially if you're at home. You want a secure public link that you can use to access your audiobooks. The best way to achieve that is with a Cloudflare tunnel. So go ahead, if you don't have a Cloudflare account, get one. If you don't have a domain name, get one. You can get it from any provider and link it into Cloudflare. And that would be with the onboard a domain option, or you can actually transfer it to Cloudflare to have them manage your registration for you. But go ahead, take care of that, get your domain name in here. And we're going to use tonytravels.com for this. So to set up our Cloudflare tunnel, we want to go to Zero Trust, Networks, Overview, Manage Tunnels, Add a Tunnel. And then I'm going to call my tunnel audiobook shelf, save it. And then because we're using Ubuntu for our environment, that is based on Debian, so click on Debian. And basically what I want to do is copy this command and this command into our terminal session. And without getting down in the weeds too far, basically you're going to set up a bridge between any public device and your server, so that way you don't have to open ports like the 133.7.8.1 that we currently have open. So let's go ahead and copy this command, go back to our server, we'll paste that in. It's going to set up that system service for us. And while that's working in the background, you'll see that there are these connectors down here. There are no connectors installed, but once we execute this command here, that will go ahead and connect from our server back to Cloudflare. So let's go ahead and copy that, and then we'll paste that in, hit enter, and let's keep an eye on here to see if we get the connection. And we do, there we go. So we are now connected with our Cloudflare tunnel. We're not done just yet. Click on this next button here. And what we want to do is publish our application. So pick your domain name. I'm going to host mine under a subdomain called Audiobookshelf. And then as far as the service is concerned, pick HTTP. I know it sounds like it's not secure, but Cloudflare is going to take care of issuing that secure SSL certificate. This is just whatever process is running locally on your server. And then for the URL, we do want localhost :133.7.8, no matter where you're hosting this from. All right, we'll complete that setup. And as you can see, I have multiple different tunnels running right now. If you love this type of stuff, definitely subscribe to this channel. I have a lot more content planned on Docker and Cloudflare tunnels in the future. Self-hosting is a big focus of mine going forward, so please subscribe and like this video. Send me a comment down below, all the good stuff. Anyway, we do have our audiobook shelf container now running. It is healthy, so let's go ahead and test it out. In a new tab, let's go to audiobookshelf.tonytravels.com. Hit enter. We'll log in real quick. And now we can see our library. And the best part about this is we don't have that dangerous message anymore. We're running under a secure SSL certificate and gives us HTTPS. Okay, so the last part of this tutorial is the mobile app. And here, let me show you the Audiobook Shelf GitHub repository. And down here, it basically explains, if you have Android, they have an official Android app on the Google Play Store. So that's going to be your best option. If you're on an iPhone running iOS or iPad, something like that, they don't have an official app yet on the App Store. They're in beta and the beta is full, so you can't access that app yet. But there are a ton of different options that you can use. Let me show you that page. So at audiobookshelf.org, on their frequently asked questions page, they have this list of all the different user interface mobile apps that you can access Audiobook Shelf from. And that's one of the cool things about open source, is the fact that anybody can build on top of it. Now, your best option is probably going to be Plappa, and that's what I'm going to show you here in this tutorial video. So let me open up my phone here, and I'm going to show you how to access your audiobook server via the Plappa app. So go ahead and download that from the iOS App Store. It's free, and this always gets me. It's by default Jellyfin is selected. Click on Audiobook Shelf, and then we're going to type in the same exact credentials: audiobookshelf.tonytravels.com, username, password, and then hit login. Select your library, and now if we go to our books, we can see the same exact books that we have set up on our server. And if we pick one of these, let's click Leaves of Grass, you can start listening to that. And as you can see, it saves your progress. Let me know if you guys have any questions down below. I have a whole bunch more self-hosted tutorials for you, not only on my channel, but in the works. So check out this video next. I want to help you guys take back your privacy and your data. Thank you for your continued support. I will see you in the next video.